So we got about like a 4 minutes of lead time on on Odysee over these other ones, which is kind of fun.
Priority to those that know.
Yes. So yeah, it should hopefully be working well. Well, people are watching on Odysee, but no one's commenting on it, which is making me sad, but it's okay.
Oh, wait. Can I? I have to log
Huh. Strange indeed. Oh, there we go. I see something on YouTube. Yay. So, for all you YouTube chumps out there, sorry, I don't want to be mean, but all you YouTuber people out there, oh, two watching now, yay. Welcome to this. You have not, you missed out on stuff because you weren't on Odysee, because that's where all the cool stuff happened. It does look like, what is it? It does look like this thing that I'm using now, Mob Crush, takes a little bit longer to, kick into stuff, but that's fine. By the way, for the first time in a long time, we're also live on Facebook. So any
Oh
Facebook,
my.
let me. Oops.
Also on Facebook. Okay. Hello, people on Odysee. Hello, people on YouTube. Hello, people on Facebook. I can't believe you're even putting us on Facebook.
Yeah, it
That's a
just was an
dead
option.
platform.
It's a dying platform, which reminds me, there was some, I believe it was a Swiss band called Celtic Frost. Do you remember them? Some kind of,
No.
it was one of the pioneers of heavy metal and like the extreme metal
Really?
and like death metal. And so it was like before death metal was a thing. It was like one of those. And one of their songs
Not my
behind
scene.
was
Very
called
sorry, not my scene.
was called A Dying God Coming into Human Flesh. And I always thought that was like such a funny and like metal description of things. So Facebook is a dying god, as it were. It's used to be number one. It's still kind of there somewhere, but it's, it's Facebook. Anyway, enough time wasties on this kind of stuff. Hopefully not too many people comment on Facebook, because then I won't even like no. Anyway, let me just run the intro and we'll get right into the news stuff. So hey everyone, happy Friday. Hopefully you've had a nice, calm, relaxing one. I sure have, kind of. Um, yeah, I do see some people on here. Welcome to the Digital Cash Rundown. I'm Joel, as you know me. I got Eléonore on because Eleanor's the best. I'm always happy to have Eléonore on, and I always say like one of my favorite people to have on, and Eléonore is at the weird nexus of top 3 favorite people to have on, and top 3 most reliable people who I can just say, hey, can you be on or whatever, and then she's willing to come in and help. And it was, again, she might not be the most like. There might be competition each of those categories, but there's no competition in the crossover of both of those categories. So, just want to say that. And as it's such a rare treat, I'm gonna paywall Eléonore today. So if you want to ask her anything, say anything nice, say anything mean, don't say anything mean. Then you got to use cointr.ee/the desert lakes to get to my Cointree page, drop in a little message, little donation, and then there you go. I'll pop it up on the screen. Or for those of you who are watching on Odysee, who apparently there's a few people doing it, even though I'm asking, hey, is anyone on Odysee? Anyone? And then no one's answering the live chat. I know you're there. Yeah, for those people, you can leave a little hyper chat thing, which that is an interesting bit of news that I'll just cover super fast. Is Odysee now enabled people to tip with credit cards, which I'm sure has Bitcoin maximalists all over the world rejoicing, because they can now use their favorite form of payment to. Sorry, I had to get the dig in. But there's a lot of non-crypto people who are using the platform now, and allows them to basically get donations from their audience without all these different barriers. And hopefully, if this SEC case against Library gets resolved, they can switch the thing and just say the credit card tipping option will buy LBC instead of just sent straight to them, and then you'll just go in. But anyway, that's kind of in the future. Well, before we go all crazy on this stuff, how have you been, Eleanor?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be on your show. You know, when Joel contacts you, you say how high. It's always such
Well,
an honor.
only for you.
Oh,
Only
come on.
only for
No,
the
but
good
it's a
people.
no, but it's an honor as usual to be on your show and to just catch up with, you know, you're all also a true inspiration in the space, and I think there's not enough emphasis on what you're doing and the journey you've been on and how inspiring it is to have been living unbanked for so many years. So that's my own personal shout out to you and how grateful I am to be here today. I'm great. I just spent a month in Geneva catching up with friends and family, so I'm a little bit off of the cryptosphere. I can't even believe that even happened. It hadn't happened for several years, but somehow, you know, I was hiking and I was in nature and I was being with people that were not in crypto. And sometimes, you know, you don't want to be that person who's always talking about crypto with people that are not always interested. So,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
sometimes. You can
you know,
sometimes be that
sometimes.
person.
No, but it was lovely. I had a blast. I was able to actually host an event, my first one IRL in more than a year and a half. So that was great. Got to meet some crypto peeps in Geneva, and I also got to meet some people from in Zurich from the Crypto Valley. So yeah, I managed to do like family and a little bit of work, and I'm happy to be back in Amsterdam and back in my head in the game, back into crypto 100%, and to dedicate myself
Yeah,
once again.
that's definitely how I feel. And for the last 3 weeks, I've also been out and about. I was in California for a
Mm.
week for a wedding, and then I was home for literally a day before driving up to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and doing that whole thing. And then after that was going, I had basically the week there, and then went to Miami because there was some family vacation stuff I got roped into, and so I tried to see if there's anyone in the crypto scene there. One guy who follows me on Twitter, who's a big Ethereum guy, said that he runs probably the first business that takes crypto in Miami, but he doesn't take BTC anymore, and it's some sort of hair salon thing. And he basically said that nowhere else takes crypto. And I asked a few people who were just there, like, nah, no place takes crypto. And then
What?
I asked to get into some Bitcoin group, and some guy I know recommended. He says, you should join this and ask in there. So I said, okay. So I joined, and in there they asked some like maximalist purity questions in before you can get into the group. And I think I failed the question because they said, um, I think the question was, um, is it, blockchain not Bitcoin, or Bitcoin not, that Bitcoin not block, like not Bitcoin, but blockchain question. And basically I just said, I answered and said, well, I started living on Bitcoin in 2015 and closed my bank account in 2016. What does that tell you? Kind of as a way to like try to say I'm a Bitcoiner, but like not actually answer it. And then I just never got in the group. So, hey, from Miami was fun, but from a crypto perspective, it was not fun. So, anyway,
They didn't let you in. Oh,
nope.
how rude.
Yeah, I know.
I thought that they had like, didn't they have like this? Okay, let's not talk about that conference, but I know that Miami had a big, you know, conference earlier this year. I can't believe they didn't onboard any merchants after that, and you couldn't even.
Maybe. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's weird.
I still have conflicting reports as to whether the conference itself took crypto payments of any kind, but anyway, it's
Hmm. All
it's
right.
interesting. It's a
Well,
weird situation because a lot of Bitcoin people, not just maximalists, but I think the maximalist contingent is becoming stronger. And I don't mean as a percentage of crypto, but as a percentage of Bitcoin, specifically of BTC. I think they're getting
mm,
a little bit like circling the wagons around that. And I do think that
mm,
the store of value narrative has made its own people not really hustle to get places to accept it, including Lightning, which is a little bit of it's a bit of a complicating thing because they've been saying, "Oh, Lightning is going to solve these things," but in the interim, they've been saying so many arguments about you don't need to spend it, just use your bank card, and so now it's hard to shift like cultural gears to be like, no, no, but let's try to spend it this way again. So that's just my sort of hot take on that kind of thing. Have you run into any uh, maxis or people like that at these meetups lately?
Um, yeah, there are some maxi, um, but I feel like there was some intellectual honesty, not per se regarding the security or the fact that the fees have to double up to maintain the security of the network. None of that, but um, it's it's interesting when you meet maxis in person. It's not the same thing, I guess, as maxis
Mm-hmm.
online, I would
Yeah.
say. But I was definitely, advocating for peer to peer. And we were at the meetup, we were able to actually spend our crypto. I actually found a place in Geneva that not only had a Bitcoin ATM, but where you could also use crypto as payments for your drinks. I was really happy, and I was able to like promote it, showcase it, explain it to the people at the bar, etc. But the Bitcoin maxis were not interested in spending their coins, but maybe they'll go back, maybe they'll go back and start that place.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I'm just an external person at that point, and coming
Of
in, and
course.
uh, I don't also want to offend immediately everyone that's over there. But yeah, I try as much as I can to at least have the transaction moment in a meetup, whatever it is. I mean, we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's a thing too where I think we're getting to a spot where there's going to be enough ways you can spend crypto and live off of it, and enough places to where I think you're going to be able to start encouraging aggressively people who say they believe in peer-to-peer electronic cash to actually use it. Whereas, like, for example, I think a lot of the Bitcoin Cash community loves the idea of spending crypto, and there's ways they can that they don't. Just like 99% credit card, they love to spend it at a meetup or two because, oh, but then the rest of their life, they're just like living their life. And those people, I look forward to very soon saying, hey, why aren't you spending this more? Well, I don't know how. Okay, well, here's how. And then getting them into that. And of course, there's people like the Maxis who are maybe in the same territory, except they use it less. Even they don't even buy the drink at the meetup every once in a while, but they just talk smack about how it's stupid to try to spend it. In which case, I mean, I did kind of get some dude on Twitter. I forget, it's one of those maxi annoying people, but I did get him to be quiet because rather than try to logically argue things, I just pointed out the fact that he is a shill for fiat and he just loves fiat so much because all he does is buy fiat regularly. If he has all his money in Bitcoin, he has to buy fiat. He has to put it through the credit cards. Basically, for lack of a better description, I didn't even say this. I didn't use this word, but it kind of making him feel like a bitch for being like just not using crypto at all. And I did make the comment like laser eyes, more like Wells Fargo eyes. And it's surprising when
Oh,
you throw in like
Joel.
an insult at a maxi and they don't insult you back is because they're on the back foot. So basically, coming up soon, I intend to start being very aggressive in not mean, but very aggressive in just saying, do you believe in this or not? If you do, use crypto. Like the Twitter trend of like spend crypto now or you're a fake kind of thing. Anyway, that's just my little ramble.
Well, I love your, we already discussed this on last time I was on the show,
Mm-hmm.
but on your evolution towards Bitcoin, well, rediscovering maybe also the Bitcoiners that are today, giving a good hard try at the Lightning Network, running your own node, coming after Pomp, coming after the Maxis. I see you, Joel. You're on a you're on a rampage, but um,
Well, let's get
yeah, at
into
least you still have energy to do that.
yeah. Well, let's let me just see first if someone sent me a super chat here. Let me just see if it pops up on the. Hey, TDL, or the Desert Links, whatever. Thanks for the podcast. Well, thank you very much, Anonymous. That is generous of you. Anyway, as I was saying, let's get into THORchain, right? So you did a little research into THORchain coming up on this show. And
I'm taking my notes.
Yes. And what are your what's your hot take from just having kind of read about it now a little bit?
Okay. My first hot take, and I think this is the most amazing part of all of this, is that I realized that they managed to stop the network once it was hacked, not because of a dev or because of certain admin keys or whatever. It's because an independent node, and I think it was a community dev, they realized that something was going off, and then you can you can actually have a command and you sort of halt the network. And once 1/3 of the network presses and has that same command that goes out, the network stops by itself. And I was just like a bit taken back at how beautiful that was, that it was like, okay, it took like an hour or less than an hour for this to happen. But I don't know. It's the beauty of a decentralized protocol being hacked, something horrible happening, but the community coming through and I don't know. That for me was I know it's horrible. I know that someone hacked. I know that someone, there was an exploit, but it's fine. They have enough funds in the treasury. Let's hope that the hacker grabs the bounty, gives back some money, etc. I'm just surprised to see these decentralized protocols in action. Yeah, with people working and staying on guard, basically, and being able to alert the rest of the network this way. It's beautiful. It's like a horrible attack, but it's also showing decentralized, I don't know, soldiers in action, defending the network, or at least protecting others. I like that. I think that's beautiful.
Now, as far as I know, they do at this point still have some centralized control, like the devs, in order to stop things in emergency situations. So really quick, the THORchain is basically a decentralized exchange, and obviously there's tons of like dexes all over the place, or supposed dexes, or there's all what in my understanding, because this is not my area of expertise, what my understanding makes THORchain unique is that it's an easy, efficient cross-chain dex, to where you don't have to have anything other than the coin you want and the coin you're going to receive. So for example, if I wanted to trade, say, Dash for Bitcoin Cash, because I want to use Purse, and Purse for some reason doesn't take Dash anymore, or never did rather, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to throw $100 worth of Dash, send it into their pool, and then I get 100 of or minus trading fee or whatever of Bitcoin Cash back out, and I don't have to like connect with this dex in a special way. I don't have to have some like rune tokens to do that stuff. It is involved in the running of the system, but just the beauty of it seems to be it's like old school ShapeShift, where you just swap it and it works, except you can't take this thing down, which is pretty amazing.
So
yes.
So indeed, you're right on the sort of the tokens are not wrapped, and that you're dealing with native tokens at any point. From what what THORchain is and what they're trying to do, and at some point he describes it that it's like Uniswap, but it's multi-chain. So that makes it much stronger. And indeed, what's different from, let's say, a DEX such as Uniswap is that instead of having fragmented pool model where liquidity providers have to deposit, always have to deposit two types of assets, and that's the payments that you have to deposit as a liquidity provider. In the THORchain model, you can deposit you have to deposit, let's say you deposit BCH, and then you have to deposit the same amount of rune token. So Rune is the other token that you have to deposit. And if you don't want to deposit Rune, or you don't want to buy Rune, or you don't want to borrow Rune, you could, let's say you only deposit BCH, but then the protocol halves it for you and splits it for you, basically, so that you have an equal amount of BCH and Rune, whether you like it or not, basically. And by having this aggregated pool model, you have deeper pools, which means that you have probably less slippage for the traders, which means that you might have better rates, which means that then you can have more traders, which means more fees, which means more liquidity providers. So it's kind of this virtuous cycle that they've been creating. So it's interesting. It's a different model than other dexes out there, and it seems really interesting. I mean, of course, we're discussing THORchain today because they were hacked, and there was a approximately 4,000 ETH exploit, which at this point represent approximately $5 million exploit by
either a
someone
huge
who
amount of money
managed
or chump change, depending on your perspective.
yeah, I don't know, but it's really interesting because they were able basically to pretend. Okay, again, I'm not an expert, but they had they use a custom wrapper where they made the depositing 200 ETH, but they weren't. The protocol, they actually deposited nothing, like 0 ETH, but the protocol registered 200. So basically, at that point, they were able to manipulate the pool price, and they had an arbitrage opportunity, and then they were able to, have this exploit. But kudos to I don't want to say kudos to the hackers, but like I saw someone in their Telegram group saying, if you manage to profit out of your hack, then it's kind of fair game. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how all these decentralized systems
Call to the hacker.
Yeah, the decentralized
to come
systems
back.
seem to like the whole code is law kind of idea of basically if it's permissible, then if you can do it, then it is acceptable, right? That it's not like, well, you did a bad thing, because there are no bad things. And a lot of crypto relies on game theory. For example, proof of work relies on game theory. Proof of stake definitely relies on game theory. And it's all like based on the incentives, like, why would you do this if that? Or it's basically incentivize good behavior, and then you'll get the good behavior is kind of the thing. Now, THORchain is doing something interesting, which, I mean, obviously the smooth operating, like the cross-chain Uniswap idea is one thing that's pretty revolutionary, great. But the other thing that's pretty important, which I don't know if it's a good idea or not, we'll find out, is the whole Chaosnet idea, where that's what they're in right now. They're in Chaosnet, which is not testnet, because testnet is, fake coins or whatever, just to figure out if there's bugs. And it's not mainnet. It's not like everything's fine, it's released. It's Chaosnet, which is a mainnet testing, which is, in my view, the only way you can ever know if something works. And the thing is, though, people have lost, I mean, I don't know if people have, but THORchain has lost a lot of money on Chaosnet testing. I believe they had 2 different exploits in the last week or so, or I don't know how long it's been, but they've had a few big thefts through exploits recently. And of course, that's the only way you can really 100% tell if it's like ironclad. And as such, they've kept these caps. There's always this raise the caps hashtag floating around Twitter, because they cap the total amount of money that can be used in THORchain, because they want to be responsible. They don't want, like say like $5 million lost. They don't want it to be $500 million at this stage, right? They want to make sure it's more ironclad, which it's definitely a we're decentralizing as fast as possible kind of a thing. So I guess we'll see. Like, their treasury keeps on compensating these hacks. Let's see if their treasury gets starts running out of money, or if the Rune price starts going way too low based on these things, so that holders of the project are being harmed. Like, we'll see if it turns out to be a bad idea. It could just be that everyone's like talking smack about them today, but this was the right way of doing things all along.
It's interesting. From what I can see from the community, it feels kind of tight, and it feels like, they know that this is Chaosnet, so the people that are providing liquidity, they know what they're getting into as well. Like, and they're providing you're able to have yields on your
Mm-hmm.
native tokens, not wrapped tokens. And that's something that no one else out there can really offer. All the other dexes are, Binance Chain or Ethereum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really unique what they're offering. So I think the Chaosnet, it's yeah, they're obviously taking immense risks, but I think that the people that are in it and that are doing this, they believe. Okay, I know that everybody in crypto believes, but I feel like because people realize the potential of this platform and they realize what THORchain is doing, and maybe I'm too bullish right now, but I just came out of a deep dive into the THORchain
Of
community, and I feel
course.
like everybody's like applauding the transparency and how fast everybody reacted, and I don't know. It feels good. It feels like, okay, you're right. It's a hack and it's Chaosnet, and there's been other hacks, but they're battle testing it basically, and it's
Yeah.
being hardcore battle tested. So we'll
And
see. We'll
we
see.
did get another question from Anonymous in the super chat. He says, "Is it possible to halt the Dash network? Which is more decentralized, Dash or Thor?" At this point, it's quite obviously Dash because, I mean, I don't know how Thor Chain's going to work in the future. But no, basically to answer your question, no, there's no way to halt Dash network without getting to every single mining pool, have them stop mining, and no one else mines, and getting every single master node to get them to stop. Uh, Dash has an interesting thing, a multi-phase fork called a spork, which is kind of like an on-off switch for features. And it's over time there's been fewer and fewer things that have been part of that sort of spork, but it's basically a way of preventing catastrophic things from happening during a hard fork, which is, how you upgrade. And I can't even remember the last time people mentioned, like, I think, like, for example, if you upgrade from a version to another version, there's like a spork which turns on all the new versions features, and so they wait until everyone is basically upgraded to that until the network fully hard forks. So you just flip the spork, and then the transition goes smoother. So it's still like you can't just flip features on and off like that, but it is kind of like a part of the migration process. I'm not super like that's not my number one thing that I've been like expert on, but there's also another one thing I would really love that would be an, a really good innovation would be for there to be um, a multi-sig or some kind of a decentralized key to a spork where you could have whole big features. Like, what if THORchain, I mean, all these pools had to manually shut down their things. But, like, how that process works, where, like, if you get 2/3 of the pools to just vote to shut the whole thing down, then it all shuts down. Imagine that for, let's say, like a Bitcoin network type thing, where if the majority decided to quickly respond and just do a switch, if you could do something like that. Again, that's a huge can of worms, by the way. That's a lot of things you could, you know, a lot of potential upside and downside. That's something to be interestingly talked about. But anyway, sporks are kind of interesting. I just thought I'd bring that up, and thank you, Anonymous, for the D's.
I guess for THORchain, and again, not a THORchain expert, but what's interesting is how these THORchain nodes are this third type of actor which the network has. It's not like Uniswap where you just have liquidity providers and traders. Here you have liquidity providers, traders, and these nodes. And so these nodes have significant power. Actually, that's where the governance lies as well. They use Rune to vote, etc. But yeah, in this case, 1/3, I think it was 1/3 of your right of these nodes had to manually write make halt,
Mm-hmm.
and that triggered the whole network to stop on its own. So it's kind of interesting, and these nodes, and I wouldn't dare do the comparison with like master nodes and Dash, but these nodes are also locking up some Rune and something called proof of bond,
Mm-hmm.
which gives them then the privilege and also the responsibility of validating transactions. So I wouldn't go too far into all of this, but I thought what was really interesting as well is that they have like this. Whereas in Uniswap, you don't have that. It just,
Mm-hmm.
the liquidity providers are voting on the transaction fees and if they can go up or down and what they do with them, etc. In this case, there's an automatic adjustment between the liquidity provider and the nodes
Mm.
and the revenue, depending on if there's what is it called? If it's under bounded. So if there's not enough rune or more rune that's being staked to become a node.
Mm.
Again, I'm not an expert, but I don't know. I think it's really interesting
It's
how
really
they're
cool.
actually using certain consensus algorithms. Oh, they're making their own. Obviously, proof of bond is another one which I wasn't familiar with, and I'm I'm not. I don't know if there's other blockchains out there that are using proof of bond. Am I?
Yeah, it's probably
I don't
something
know,
similar to
but
proof
I
of
thought that was
stake,
interesting.
but it'd be interesting to delve into all these
Yeah,
consensus algorithms, you
it is
know?
similar because you can lose your bond if you misbehave, from what I get. So I would say that's kind of like the equivalent of a slashing algorithm for proof of stake. So if you
Yeah.
don't validate correctly,
Hmm.
then you can also use your bond, i.e., your stake.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Which
Very
is,
interesting.
it's kind of interesting. I've had to explain this and I've had to sort of struggle to figure it out to be able to explain it. But like the difference, what makes masternode? People say it's proof of stake, but it's not. It's a slight it's
Mm,
proof of service they call it because of a couple of things. First off, miners still produce all the blocks, so it's not a consensus
right.
algorithm. The masternodes don't actually run the network. They run a lot of stuff on top of the network, like securing transactions instantly, making blocks permanent after one confirmation, and doing a whole bunch of extra stuff like running the coin join stuff in the background. They do a lot of stuff, but they don't run the network itself. It's still a proof of work chain. So that's the biggest difference. The other thing is um, you aren't paid like based.
Yeah.
You don't have power based on your stake, because if you stake 1,000 dash, that's how you get a node. That's the minimum for a node. And if you want to run a different node, second node, then it's another two. Like then you have to have 2,000, for example. It's not like 1,500 doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't get you any more
Mm-mm-mm.
power. But also, the node has requirements where you have to run certain uptime. You have to do all these kinds of things. And if you don't run your node well enough, then you start to get a proof of service scoring, which basically means you get like strikes, and if you get enough of those, then your node can get kicked off
Oh.
entirely, even though you have the money. You don't, and the money's never able to be lost. It's not even staked. You can move the collateral behind a node at any moment. 2 seconds later you can move it, but just your node goes down if you do. So it's never like you stake your money. It's just you prove you have enough to be part of this
Mm.
thing. And as you're running the services, if you don't do your job, which is running a super robust, network, then you can get kicked off for that. Doesn't matter how much money you have. So it's not a consensus thing at all, and that's one reason why people say, um, proof of service instead of say a proof of stake thing. Although, anyway,
So so as a master node, you'd lose your job, but you don't lose your stake. Is that what you're saying?
yes,
Am I understanding this correctly?
yes, and you don't even have to move your stake when you want to try again, when you want to, and then basically the node go offline, and then you get bumped to the back of the payment queue, because the block reward that goes to masternodes goes out to one at a time, and it's just so if there's only 3 nodes, then it goes 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, like in that order. But if there's 5,000, it goes 1 2 3 4 5 all the way down. And if you get bumped out of line, you start at the beginning, so you get paid later. Therefore, you lose out on some money. So it's a pretty interesting system, and yeah, it basically gives you economic incentive to run good infrastructure while proving you have stake in the network, even though the stake is just sort of a gets you in the door kind of a thing. So, anyway, that's enough rambling on that. Have you
Hmm.
seen the whole stuff with Binance? Have you seen any of these headlines about Binance
I have.
getting banned in certain jurisdictions, or disabling withdrawals for certain jurisdictions,
Yeah,
disabling current features? What's your whole take on
I
all that?
know. It's everywhere. I think right now, yeah, right now the list of countries is Thailand, Japan, UK, Germany, Canada, Cayman Islands, Italy, and SEPA deposits and withdrawals are halted. So yeah, I feel for the Binance community because I think that and I've met a couple of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Love CZ and love the platform. And I say this by also having worked at another big, exchange, which was OKX at the time. And so I had all my eyes on Binance as well during that time. We look closely at the competition. And what can I say? They launched their own, Binance Smart Chain. And I guess some, regulators out there saw this and thought we need to stop this. So in the case of this whole year where we saw, really the rise of DeFi, the rise of decentralized exchanges being built on Ethereum, and no one could stop any of that, Binance definitely can be stopped. But at the same time, when I see the news this week of ShapeShift reverting to a DAO, or should I say evolving to a DAO, who knows if that's not the next announcement from CZ. It's like, oh, we're doing a DAO. We don't care if we don't have any more, we don't have any headquarters. We're not incorporated anywhere. We're a DAO.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's talk about
That's
that
something
for a second.
they would consider.
Because I think that's an interesting move. And let me tell you about my evolution of opinion on Erik Voorhees, just in full transparency, because I've said a lot of things.
Okay.
In the beginning,
Okay.
obviously, he's one of the biggest, best, most awesome crypto pioneers. And there's just no getting rid of the respect for that, right? And then ShapeShift,
Right.
of course, was like everyone used it. It was awesome. And he kind of got a lot of flack from Maxis for being one of the few people who's like a big figure who at the same time always defended other coins. I think he's been a little too pro Bitcoin versus the other things over time. That's my personal opinion, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but he did have
Yeah.
the balls to say,
I think I can. I
yeah.
think I'll reach you on that one. Yeah.
He did have the courage to say whatever it was, and he's gotten a lot of flack. He's been branded as a shitcoin or whatever, even though he's a very Bitcoin first kind of a guy. And then I started to, when he introduced KYC into ShapeShift, was when I started to become critical, because I know that regulations suck. I know you have to listen to them, but I don't think, or maybe again, there's a lot of other perspectives, right? I don't think that was I don't think he had to, right? There were no regulations that made you KYC for those kinds of things at that point, as far as I'm aware. Other competitors did not do KYC. And it's even in the US jurisdictions, by the way. It's not just that he happened to be in the US. And so then I feel like he was kind of at the forefront of bowing to the government, which is a little like, I got a little annoyed at that, to be honest. And I don't really like judge it from the perspective of, obviously you got to do what you got to, you do the best you can to try to make your business, your customers, everything work out. And so, yeah, I don't really judge that, but I do at the same time judge that, And then when he did this whole like, oh, well, we're going to be DEX now. At first I thought, I didn't take it seriously, because I was like, oh, okay, you just saw that Uniswap destroyed everyone, and you just saw that your business is down. You lost 90% of your customers because you're nonsense. You're going to like virtue signal about, decentralization and stuff now. Like, come on, dude. Like, I wasn't born yesterday. And then, so I was skeptical, right? And then with this new, we're going to become a DAO thing, I'm like, maybe he is for real, Like, maybe I doubted his intentions unfairly. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Have you followed a similar trajectory? Or maybe you were not as mean as I was.
I agree on the whole, he's pushing Bitcoin quite hard. For having had them just for my last event in March, I had them as a sponsor, and I had to also research them a little bit. And at the time, they were still full KYC, and I watched a couple of his interviews and talks, and I realized, I don't know, when I could see him talk about it, I could see that he was being under threat. Obviously, someone had knocked on his door. I think he even mentions that, the SEC letter, and that he also couldn't talk about it, and that it was really difficult. And I can't even imagine what he's gone through personally, for being such an OG and trying to have a legit business, and then also then being like, you know what? No, we're not giving up. So I really, it's so human, the journey that he's had. So I have a lot of empathy, and I think that ShapeShift just looks beautiful as well as a platform. Like the rebrand that they had last year was really nice. No, I think when they started moving towards DEX, I mean, I did not foresee the DAO moments, but that definitely gave me faith again into him and his, direction and vision. And I thought, wow, that's such an interesting move to do. And I'm sure that it wasn't easy. And can you imagine like running an exchange, having all these employees, whatever, and now just, relinquishing control to a decentralized autonomous organization that's another wow moment for this week, I think. Between that and the Thor Chain anonymous community dev and anonymous node signaling to everyone that something was happening, it's like, wow,
Wow.
decentralized organization.
Not to quote
in
our
action.
little friend back here, but wow.
Wow, much wow, so much wow.
wow.
I feel like that's a great how do you call it, segue
such
towards
DAO.
the Dogeness. Such wow.
Such
DAO.
So
such DAO.
I only will spend like 2 minutes on the Doge thing. I'm just gonna say the Doge co-founder, I forget his name because I don't care to learn it.
Okay.
He's a nobody.
I'm squishing this. If I'm making weird noises, it's
all right. For those with active imaginations who are only listening on the audio, it's a little stress reliever ball. So, anyway, with this Doge fellow, first off, he's following nobody on Twitter, which is a huge like douche move. I don't know. And then second,
right? I saw that 34K followers. 0.
He does this big nonsense about. He just talks all this smack about crypto, about how it's like being used for scammers and thieves and all this kind of stuff, which there's a little bit of truth to that. Let's not deny that. But he just says it's like a tool of ultra capitalism, for like right wing people. And I'm just like, all right, dude, whatever. And the thing is, when he's talking about all the scam stuff, is he created Dogecoin, right? Or co-created or whatever, which is literally a joke / scam. I don't know if it's a scam because it was kind of overt about being a joke. He created this project. So first off, he's the biggest. He's criticizing himself in all this self-righteousness because he's the one who did this. He did some of the worst shitcoinery that has ever been done, right? No offense to Doge and its history as like the great meme and stuff, but screw this guy. Second, I think he's just salty because he created this like joke coin to mock crypto, to just say like, haha, look at this. And yet it became a top 5 coin in time after he had none of it. So screw you,
that I did not know. He doesn't have any of the Doge?
I don't think so. I think he exited a long time ago.
That explains. But you see, okay, I knew nothing about the guy. I had to read the Twitter thread of being so angry and bitter. And I thought, what happened? What happened to him to make him so upset? He's and of course he's his arguments are that cryptocurrencies is just for horrible people, that we're all like scamming each other, and that we're all part of any ways of working with the banking system, and that it's all waste. So
yeah,
I'll give him the fact that yes, there are a lot of scams going on. The most recent being in the mainstream news being Dink Doink, which is by Logan Paul. But I feel like for someone who created a joke, so he must have already been bitter at the time to sort of be like, haha, let's troll people and launch something that's useless. Mm-hmm. And now he's again bitter like 6 years later, and I don't know. A lot of bitterness in that man.
Yeah, I mean, he created the world's most valuable joke, and at the end of the day, somehow the joke's on him. It's funny the way that works. Oh,
that was nicely phrased.
Yes. So, does Eléonore finally have a Dash address, or is the Deserty links seizing all super chat funds? The answer to your second question is Yes. For those who remember, like Rick and Morty with the simulation. Yes. Uh, but the other one is, does she have a Dash address? Absolutely. It is Bloc Blanc. That's the Cointree one, right?
Yep.
So it's.
I was trying to find it for you guys,
Let
but
me
yes,
put
I
it.
do have a
I'm
coin
gonna put it in the
tree.
live chat
Do
for
you
you.
have it?
It's got to be Bloc Blanc, right? That was your.
Yeah, it's coin tree block blank.
Yeah. So see. Okay, I'm typing this one thing on the phone. Cointr.ee/block, as in, blockchain. Blanc,
Blockchain.
as in white in French.
Yes, which
So,
is my family name, so it's not
yes.
that weird.
Yes. It just doesn't. Um,
But
.ee
yes,
slash.
I on my coin tree, I think someone at some point asked me to put a BTC address and I just never got to doing it. So I'm sorry. It's BCH, Ethereum, and Dash.
Well, you know
Um,
what you should do, because you do get plenty of. Like, I get more niche audience. You get more general. You should put a BTC address and have one of two things. Either one, if you want to play around with Lightning, get something like a Phoenix wallet or Breeze wallet and have that as your BTC address so it goes right into Lightning and you can kind of use it more easily. Or if you just don't care about to even try Lightning, then have purse.io and have your deposit address as that. I know someone who does that because he
ooh,
gets paid in Bitcoin and he doesn't want to deal with fees. So literally it just all goes right into his purse account and then he just buys stuff off of that. So that's the smart version. Um,
that's smart.
yes.
That's smart.
So basically, that's how you can set it up. But yes, please send Eleanor some tips. In fact, I encourage you that if you want to send any more tips today in this stream, the Dash podcast, a different story, which is coming up, by the way. But send it to Eleanor. Send her some little message just to say something, and also watch her channel. But I'm going to get to that shilling part in just a second. The last thing, because we got to wrap it up really soon, is
Yeah.
you're talking about the DAO. First off,
Mm.
I worked for the DAO for 3 years, right? For the Dash DAO. The arguments are that it could be the first DAO ever. If not, it was like
Mm.
BitShares was like a month early or something. It's very, it does what I haven't actually done my research into BitShares enough to know what constitute like, and also BitShares kind of like is not successful today. So I would, at the very least, the oldest successful DAO. But so having lived through that stuff, I got to say the DAO is amazing. The DAO is the future. But if Erik Voorhees was asking me, should we make our company a DAO? I'd be like, no, not dude. Just sit
No.
this one out for now. But now that he is, it's just all I have to say is like it's amazing and welcome to the Thunderdome, because anyone with a Fox token now kind of owns you a little bit, and you have to deal with all of these animals who could be anyone, and they're frequently anonymous and they frequently shitpost everywhere, and they hate you, and a lot of this is like they didn't buy into your company. They're not they don't value it. It's a lot of just weird autistic nerds playing with like magic coins on the internet and somehow manage to have a big like control over your life with no life experience, no maturity, and they can just kind of do anything. This is the dark side. I'm just hitting you with the dark side, right? So it's going to be a crazy ride. And if you think like basically, Erik, go to your Twitter, just so you know what you're in for. Go to your Twitter thing, any of your tweets. Go scroll down all the comments. You work for those guys now. Congratulations. Like that's
You don't think he doesn't know that? I think he knows that. I think he
Yeah.
thought, okay, crazy autistic cryptocurrency people
Mm-hmm.
or SEC, and he thought, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with the crypto nerds.
Well,
I'll
that's the
prefer
thing,
those
though.
guys.
I do believe he knows what he's in for. I also believe, maybe this is shocking, I don't believe he watches the show. So it's not for him. It's for the rest of you who watch it that this is kind of what he's in for. He's in for a Thunderdome. That's all I'm saying. Now, at the same time, I believe that the DAO is the future. In fact, it's like the couple years from now future, not the 20 years from now future. I think everything should be a DAO eventually once it gets figured out. The thing is, I'm on to the next level beyond that, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about this towards the end of the next podcast, but there's a model that my friend Andy Freer, who was the architect behind Dash, he was basically the right-hand man of Evan, the founder, for many years, and then ended up being like the big mastermind behind a lot of stuff. Now doesn't work for Dash Core Group, the main development group anymore, but started his own project called the Dash Incubator, which is a way of getting development stuff run. But he basically is running the next DAO level, where essentially all the money is public, right? But all the actions of like who gets to fund whatever is all democratically done on the inside. It's not just you, the DAO elects the people who are going to run it and then they run it like a dictatorship. It's like, no, it's like everything is there. Every decision is public. Every funding thing is public. Work only goes to people who get paid for it. There's no like salaries, like, and it's all super radically transparent at every single stage of this thing in a little bit of a weird kind of a way. And it's basically turning the DAO, it's the DAO version of the DAO, if you know what I mean. It's like the next level of decentralization. So, like, let's just say I do any piece of work. Like, I get on a show. I get on a show and talk about Dash. Let's just say I claim that I did it and provide proof in a very public form where anyone on the internet can see that I did that. I say I'm claiming this much money, and then I get approved or I don't get approved. If I get approved, then I get paid that money. Everyone sees exactly how much it was paid. Everyone can check that versus the balance of the incubator and see how the whole thing works. And then if like they don't say like, oh, who's the hardest working person in the community? Let's go to the incubator thing, check this person has produced these things and this much value. The other person this, they've only gotten paid. There's no one who's a free rider. It's the next level of just radical transparency and kind of entrepreneurialism in a decentralized way.
Is it going to use a reputation index of sorts?
So at the moment, and I'm going to have to wrap this up in just a second, but in the moment, it has been done through the first incubator is Andy, the guy who made it, is running it through like an Excel spreadsheet and a Trello board and some like, hacky things like that. But it's like, he's the one that runs it, but he's putting all that stuff out there for anyone to see and has a bunch of admins that kind of run the day-to-day things. And now that's super public. Over time, it's going to become like, all right, you decide to fund this team with this. They're going to have like governance things built into that and then stuff like that. It doesn't mean that like the entire world is going to be run under a single incubator, but imagine every single company or whatever is run in it the same way. So imagine like instead of hiring a marketing department, a company, right, still a centralized company will make an incubator and just say, pick a couple people to start running it. They'll throw a big pot of money there and just say, all right, go advance our product and mission. And then they'll just start coming up with ideas. They're all co-approved this and they'll get paid for that. And then they get to just literally see how the whole thing works out. Everything has a bounty to it. And just any one of their customers can just work for the company in that way. Just jump in there and get paid for that stuff. And it just kind of, it's like it's like a hackathon, like a permanent hackathon for everything, sort of.
Interesting.
So it's going to be interesting to see. I will keep everyone updated because I have some surprises in that regard. But that's just the cool thing. Basically, Erik Voorhees is at the cutting edge, but not the bleeding edge. There's another level to this. There's another level to this. So let's wrap this thing up. Where can people find about you and your work other than the coin tree thingy?
Cryptocanal.org is my website. You can check out for the Crypto Canal to join. We're also, of course, on Twitter at CryptoCanal. I'll be having I'm having a talk on Monday, which is really going to be cool, with the Hanseatic Blockchain Institute. I'll be talking about the fall of the Lebanese pound and the use case for cryptocurrencies. And on the 1st of August, I'll be co-hosting with Satoshi's Angels the Bitcoin Cash Day. So that's happening. And on the 28th, Crypto 101, free crypto class for everyone to get the basics of crypto and blockchain. 28th of July online, and IRL drinks in Amsterdam that evening. So there's a lot of things happening very soon. Yes. Cryptocanal.org.
I'll have to go visit Amsterdam at some point and be part of all this awesome stuff. But not quite immediately. Well, anyway, thanks everyone. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, comment, share, like, whatever. If you have any other, you can use the Cointree super chat thing offline as well if you want to talk to me. Obviously, subscribe to Eléonore, and please throw at least a little bit of like 50 cents or more, but like just something, just to make
I
her feel good on
someone
Cointree.
someone sent me something and it's very sweet, and they said thanks for the Thor Chain insights on the Digital Cash Network show. So I'm very happy I was able
Well,
to
there we go.
support
So,
tonight.
so I think I'll start doing that in the future, where I do the first 2/3 of the show just being like a selfish piece of garbage, and then at the end just say, "Hey, where's your Cointree?" and start encouraging people to do that. But we'll
That
see how
sounds
that
lovely.
works. All right, so next is the Dash podcast with the one and only Mark Mason. That's going to be very fun. As usual, if you're on Odysee, just stay on the same link. It's going to pop back up on YouTube. There's going to be another one. But thanks everyone. I will see you either in like 5 minutes or next week. Thanks again, Eléonore, and yeah, bye bye.
Bye.